Hello, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Welcome back to another episode of Connected and Committed Podcast.
Yes, welcome back. It's a new place, new setting.
Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
be changing ever so often, to be
Yeah.
honest. Next couple of months, the people who are watching, the location will be different. But those who are listening, this is consistent for you.
Yeah. Maybe the sound might sound a little different because depending on our environment.
Yeah, that's fair. Hope it sounds good.
Yeah.
We're not too
I mean,
close.
it's fine. We tested it out. I think it's okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think these are. I mean, I hope they do okay because they've been. I don't know. They've been interesting.
This is what we got right now. So for those who are watching, I apologize. For those, like I said, those who are listening,
I hope it's good enough for you.
it's been the same. So if it hasn't been good,
Yeah.
we haven't heard anything. So I hope it is.
Yeah.
We are currently in Belgium right now, and at Matthew's mom's house.
This is our kitchen.
It's a kitchen. There's a little fire going on in the background, which you guys can't see.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I hope it stays on, but it's been having a hard time going.
Making a fire is not easy.
Well, it's just you. I don't know. I don't understand. It's not about the flames because the flames are big. It's about the temperature. Anyways, like it has to be really hot for the fire to be sustained. And I guess it's been having a hard time, but I think this time it'll be good.
Sustaining fire. That's good.
Yeah.
It's a good transition.
Temperature is more important than flames.
That's fair.
Ooh.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
We're
We're just making a meaning out of something.
Making a meaning to transition to what I want to talk about today.
No, but I mean it's interesting. It's like the character, the what you don't see is more important than what you see. Because you don't see the temperature, but you see the flames.
Yeah.
And having big flames,
you think it's going to make it sustainable, but then it goes away.
But it doesn't mean that like what's like deep and unseen is what actually sustains it.
Whoa. Write that down. I'm kidding. No, but I don't know. I think that it does transition a bit in general for what we talk about always with like relationship anxiety and just relationships in general. We talk about that often, obviously, when it comes to just like feelings and thinking that just because we have intense feelings doesn't mean it's going to sustain a relationship.
Yeah.
But with what I want to talk about today, it still kind of aligns. So I was on Instagram and I don't even know why, but it popped up. I don't even, it doesn't matter really who it is, but more of the context of what was being said. This person and their partner were
These famous people.
They're famous people. This person and their partner were on the couch. Like I think they're kind of giving relationship advice, but I think they don't really do this typically. But I think they're just kind of doing it for fun and just kind of making it silly. And the person said, "I've pretty much. I think I just got a divorce after being married for like 20 years. How do I like do online dating?" And they were kind of like, "Oh, I don't know. Like this is different." And then one of the partners was like, "I'm sorry, by the way. Like divorce is hard." And then the other one was like, "You know what? No, congratulations." And then just kind of like, because if you're sad, you should leave. And I stopped watching the video because it was like a reel. I don't know how long it was, but I think that obviously made me very angry. Like it makes me super, super angry that this is what is, these people are very, very famous. Like everyone knows them probably, I would say, at least the one of the people everybody knows. And it's so normalized to just be like, oh, we just celebrate divorce. Like, we just celebrate it no matter what the context is. We don't even know what the context was. It could have been a good relationship, right? It could have been an unhealthy one. We don't know. But all we know is that they got divorced and the person's just like, we should celebrate that. Like that's
with no context.
With no context. And I think that honestly, and I'm not even bagging on Elizabeth Gilbert. I don't really know her as a person, obviously, at all. But I really love her book, Big Magic. Remember the book we talked about?
I remember you were reading that.
Yeah, and you liked it.
Oh, is it the one about creativity and stuff? Okay, yeah, that was good.
Really good book. But she's also the person who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And you know that.
Oh, you said that one wasn't good though.
Oh, I never read it. I tried watching the movie, and the movie was crap apparently. But the book apparently is good. But it definitely, a lot of people after reading that book was like, oh my gosh, I'm not happy. I'm divorcing my person after 30 years, after 10 years, after 15 years. Like it was just very, very normalized. It kind of started a revolution of people getting a divorce, which I know people were getting divorced before that, but it definitely made it normalized. As women, it's empowering to leave something that's no longer serving you. And I want to call BS on that. I'm sorry. This might not be popular opinion. This might not be the cute opinion at all, but I'm not going to sit here and celebrate a divorce and think that that's just like what we should be doing. It's so specific on this or in the circumstance.
Yeah.
and we can't just overgeneralize the fact of like, if you're not happy, I'm just literally attaching something in my brain saying, if I'm not happy, I gotta leave.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to attempt to, in a sense, I might not even try to find a solution
Yeah.
because I've been unhappy for so long that
Hmm.
I'm just going to go.
Well, I think that's the thing is for me, like, for and for you too, I'm sure, divorce is for like extreme situations.
Sure.
It's like,
Yes.
even with our faith, like in the Bible, there are specific situations where divorce is accepted.
Yeah.
Um, but the problem is, I feel like nowadays, like you said, it's just because people are unhappy, they think that it's time to get a divorce, or like, you know, people fell out of love,
Yeah.
like things like that, like, and they think it means that that season is over or whatever. Like, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You talking about marriage as a season? Like,
Mm,
marriage is not a season. Marriage is
yeah.
like, once you commit to someone in that way, you're choosing to be with them no matter the season.
Hmm.
And marriage is like, you make one now, and that's it. Like, unless those specific situations, and we're talking about like cheating, we're talking about abuse,
Yeah.
like things like that. I definitely, those are legit reasons to get a divorce. But if you're just saying like, I'm unhappy,
Hmm.
or I'm not feeling in love anymore, or even like, you were saying, like, people say I outgrew my spouse or whatever. I'm like, well, then go down a little and try to figure out what's going on. Like,
Wait for them to catch up. I don't know.
there's there's those are opportunities to work on your marriage and make it more solid, not opportunities to leave.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you're leaving for those reasons, then you're like, you were already trying to figure out how to leave that place.
Right.
You know?
And I think that's what becomes dangerous because when we start to put in our mind that, again, once I'm unhappy, it's time to go, we're going to try to find all the things that are making us unhappy about this relationship, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, he doesn't do the dishes. Oh my gosh, like he doesn't let me like spend all the money that I want. I don't know. She doesn't allow me to, well, it's so many things. We'll start to nitpick and really hyper fixate on what's wrong, and then we're just going to end up leaving.
Yeah.
And I like want to tie this into relationship anxiety as well because I think there's a fear of that, right? There's this fear of I'm going to get into a relationship and
Hmm.
then
It's not gonna work out.
it's not gonna work out. And so it's like, why would I get into a relationship? I pretty much, my anxiety like self sabotages this relationship, and it makes me want to leave, and I
Hmm.
end up not getting married at all, for
Yeah.
example. And when we as a society normalize this divorce, right, and celebrate all these things, we start to put in our mind of like everyone's getting divorced. Like
Yeah.
everybody thinks this is okay. What if my partner suddenly thinks it's okay? What if my partner suddenly wants to leave me because of X, Y, and Z? What if I start to want to leave my partner because of X, Y, and Z? When in reality, it's like we got to just nip it in the butt of it's nothing to do with kind of the overall generalization of you just get divorced because you're unhappy. You have to put in the work to be able to make your marriage work, like you to make any relationship work. And I think if there's any part of you that doesn't see that, like it's more normalized to leave than to stay,
Hmm.
then you start to do that, right? Like that's just even that's kind of what we do when it comes to relationship anxiety. We might not know what we're doing that. We think it's we're leaving for like legitimate reasons. But you're kind of like training your mind to leave when things are really difficult,
Yeah.
and it kind of continues on that pattern until you get to the root of like, why you're doing what you're doing.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. You know, I mean, my parents got divorced, so for me, like, I think that was something that a lot of people were doing around me. Um, and
What do you mean?
unfor- well, it's just that it feels like it was becoming normal,
Mm,
like, but obviously nobody expected my parents to get divorced,
yeah,
especially not us. And so that was kind of a surprise because their marriage looked good.
yeah,
So it kind of came out of nowhere. But I'm thankful that, like, after that I became Christian, just because it did give me um a different perspective of what marriage is, and like, just not having divorce as an option.
mm,
Um, but it was obviously, at that point, there was also a little like religion mixed up in that, because it
sure,
was like, oh, like it's a sin, and so I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do it. But as I grew older, I also realized, like, uh, it, like divorce is not an option, not because it's a sin, but because it's just not what God wants.
Hmm.
That's not what marriage is intended for.
Sure.
Um, it's intended to make one and to build a life together, and to keep choosing each other, no matter what. And so divorce wasn't an option for me anymore. Like I would never even think about considering divorce.
Hmm.
You know, I think that if people want to get married, they need to accept that it's not going to be always easy. Um, and if like that's why people have relationship anxiety of they're afraid of marriage. They're afraid that a lot of people are afraid to be unhappy.
Hmm.
You know,
Oh yeah,
and
for
being
sure.
stuck there. To be honest, like if you're unhappy, there's a lot of it's a process to get to that place of being so unhappy that you're
Right.
ready to leave your marriage. That means that there's a few steps there that you did not a few problems that you did not address
Hmm.
before you got to that point. Because obviously being happy, first of all,
Hmm.
being happy is not it shouldn't rely on like your spouse. Like you should already figure out how to be happy or like content or being self-sufficient in a way before you get into a relationship. Because if you think that like the person you're going to be with is going to be the one bringing you all your emotional needs, then it's not you're not going to be happy
Yeah,
because you're going to end up with someone who can't fill those needs.
that's true.
um Now
Hmm.
another thing too is you have to be able to be with some to choose someone who understands that marriage is work and it's not something to take for granted.
Yeah.
Because if you do end up with someone who doesn't understand that and thinks that like we're so in love, so let's get married and that's it, then yes, you come to a point where you're going to be unhappy because that's someone who doesn't understand how how much work
Hmm.
is marriage and how important it is to put effort in connecting with your spouse and choosing your spouse all the time.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's fair. I there was something you said that I wanted to pick back up. Um, hold on, I had it, but I do think that I like what you're saying about if you pretty much if you find value from your relationship, you are going to
Sorry.
expect that person to make you happy. That's okay. You're going to expect that person to make you happy, and I think if we're not careful and we're not aware of kind of all this, like honestly, relationships in general bring up a lot of stuff in you, like things that you didn't know that were there. And then I think marriage brings it another level that you may not know that's there, and you kind of are consistently like you do have to die to your flesh. That sounds so churchy.
Christian.
Yeah, if you go to church, I've heard that a lot, but it
I don't like that saying.
I know I don't love it either. And I wanted to use a different phrase, but you do have to. But I have to rely on the Lord heavily in our relationship because I think that if I didn't, I would. I mean, I do. I am selfish, right? And I think there's times where I'm like, oh
Yeah.
well, he made me mad, and so I don't have to blink. And I'm just like, and then I'll feel like kind of the conviction of God being like, okay, but did you like do you think you intended to do that? And like, are you not going to apologize for what you did? And I'm like, okay, like you know what I mean? And it's kind of like I'm like I have to not be the most important person in the relationship in order to make this work and vice
Check
versa.
yourself.
Like we have to constantly check yourself. And there's things that come up if you are if there's something in you that already believes, for example, of like, oh, like, no one cares about me or no one is fully ever gonna love me. And then you get married and they're like, oh my gosh, like someone actually chose me. I am worthy. Thank you, Lord, I'm good. And then you guys get into arguments, for example, or I don't know, you have sex and it's not like the best, or things go on and like you get pregnant and your body isn't I don't I'm just naming situations. But those things that are already there will brim up there. It'll
Hmm.
brim to the surface and then you're gonna be like, my husband doesn't love me and my
Hmm.
husband doesn't care about me and I'm not happy. He doesn't make me happy. And what am I doing? Is he's not even trying in sex, he's not even trying as a dad. He's not, you know what I mean? Like you start to build a case against this person,
Yeah.
but it's really based off of like I'm sure some aspects are like, okay, you can be accountable in this, of course, but there's it could be rooted in some things you actually believe about yourself, and then your mind is seeing it as your husband's against you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that happens so much in different relationships where, as you're saying, it doesn't you feeling unhappy doesn't happen overnight. It builds up over time, and if you don't catch yourself right away, be like, why am I unhappy? Like, when was the moment I started feeling unhappy?
Hmm.
Was it based on this? Was it based on that? Was it something we both need to work on? Is it something that I need to work on? But there's just so many aspects of it. But the blanket statement of if you're unhappy, you should just leave. I don't think that shouldn't be the main focus of what we're doing. I should say.
Well, I mean, that's what people who don't have a very strong character do. They give up, you know, and because you're unhappy, you give up. I mean, it's sad if that's how you live your life,
Mm,
because you know people who are like thriving and people who are successful, no matter what they do, whether there's in relationships, in their marriage, in their business, it's mostly people who didn't give up
mm,
and who pushed through, and it was hard,
mhm.
you know, and who figured out, what was going on.
Right.
Um, Not people who just were like, oh man, this is too hard. I just need to stop. I just
Hmm.
need to give up, you know.
Yeah.
And I think obviously sometimes, I'm not talking about relationships. Sometimes there's a time to let go, but that's for other things.
Mm,
For marriage, there's not time to let go. You don't let go. You don't give up.
mm,
You
hmm.
keep pushing, and that's why for me, like, I think the biblical reasons for divorce are the only valid reasons. And that tells me, like, when I hear those reasons in the Bible personally, I'm like, okay, those are the only few reasons that you can get a divorce. Doesn't mean that you have to. It means it's allowed. Like, even people cheating, the Bible doesn't say, oh, you should leave. No, it means it's allowed to do it if someone cheated. But we also know people, like marriages where that happened and people still stayed together
Yeah.
and they forgave each other, and that's another level of love, another level of
Yeah.
grace.
I don't know if I
um
have.
and and hopefully you never have to find out if you have
Yeah.
that level of grace
Yeah.
or forgiveness. um but like, for me, when I hear those reasons, I don't see it as like, oh, I don't have a choice, I have to like stay stuck with that person. For me, I see it as more, if those are the only reasons that I can get a divorce, then no matter what happens in my marriage, it is possible to make it work.
Mm,
I see it more as like an inspiration rather than like an obligation,
yeah.
you know? And even like couples, like your parents, they've been together for so long. And okay, I do want to say this because we talk a lot about how marriage is hard work, and you need to like, um you need to accept that it is going to take effort to sustain and maintain your marriage. I don't want to paint the picture that like marriage is this thing where like you always feel like you're working hard,
Mm,
and it's like, if you want, because then who wants to get married?
right. Doesn't sound like a job I want to sign up for.
I will say,
Yeah.
for me, marriage is mostly like fun, and then you got like a percentage that's not fun, and not because I'm annoyed at her or whatever, but just because we're two different people. We have to make it work, and we have conflicts sometimes. But then you keep working at it, and those conflicts turn into something that can actually build up your marriage and your
Mm,
connection. Um, but I don't want to paint that picture of like, man, marriage is so much work and it's so hard, and if you want to get married, you need to accept that. I think that's something that maybe we need to talk about more,
mm.
because I feel like,
I see what you're saying.
because we talk about that a lot, but I also want to say, like, marriage is great and it's fun and it's the best thing, and I love being married, and honestly, like, this life that I'm building
Mm,
with her is just the best thing ever, and all the things that we do together are amazing. And I'd rather be in this place than when I was single.
mm.
Even though I was not unhappy single, but I just think that where I'm at right now is better.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. I think that that's good. 'Cause I think for those listening to our channel, and who do experience relationship anxiety, I think the fear is the fact that marriage is going to be hard, and
Yeah,
that's not going to be fun, and that you are going to be unhappy, and that is not at all what I want to be saying. Because I think that there is an emphasis there of you need to know that marriage, what you're going to be entering into with your partner, is going to be very beautiful and is going to be very, very special and is going to be like in like the best thing ever. Like I
Hmm.
love marriage. I love being married. I love having the built-in best friend. I love having somebody who I get to make really big decisions with, and I love having somebody who I can build a life with. Like it is really, really, really beautiful. Like I love
Hmm.
it. And even if when we have conflicts, I really love our connections afterwards. Like I really, really do, because it matters to me, and the fact that you value that means a lot.
Hmm.
And you're tall and you can reach places that I can't reach. And just
Okay.
kidding. No, but I do. I really, really value marriage, um, and I want you to value that too, and I want you to value that where you can go with your partner is incredible. And when you have that, maybe that voice, that voice of anxiety coming in and being like, well, what if, most of your what if fears are probably geared towards like, what if my marriage is like my family's, what if my marriage is like blank and blank, what if this happens, what if this, what if that, what if this. And we always focus on the negative, and we don't want to have we don't want that. I think that's really important for to say. Like, I'd never want our what we're saying to make you feel more like fearful of anything. Obviously, what we're trying to do is obviously clear the path of like what this will look like. But at the end of the day, start asking those questions too of like, what if this was the best thing I've ever could do, and this actually changed my life for the best.
Hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, what if I actually have all the things that I ever want in a relationship, and we end up getting married? When we get married, it's going to be those
Yeah.
things and more. You know?
I think that if you're in a healthy relationship, it's the best thing that you can do is to get married.
Yeah.
If you're with someone who's
Why?
good,
Say more. Why do you feel like marriage? Why does it matter?
because you said all
No,
everything.
but why does it matter to? Why can't you still have that life without being married?
Because two people can go further than one person. So you can build something much bigger. You can build a much like better life with someone else than by yourself. And as you get to like as you're building this life, you get to share it with someone else, and you get to share all these milestones and
Mm.
building history and just having this emotional connection and component to your life. Um, and if you were by yourself, it's fine. You can build a great life by yourself. Like a lot of single people have amazing lives, and that's fine too. But I just feel like for me, especially when we do all those things together, like even just like moving to a new place or
Mm.
traveling, going to new restaurants, like all those things that we share together, it just makes it so much more fun and like emotionally bigger because I share it with someone.
Mm.
It's like, oh, I'm seeing something beautiful, and I'm like, look, this is beautiful, and we can see something beautiful together.
Yeah.
When by yourself, it's like, oh, this is beautiful, and it's fine. But I do feel like it adds another layer to your life. It adds more life to your life.
Mm.
It's like whatever you're experiencing, you can share it with someone else,
Yeah.
and it just makes those experiences more intense.
Hmm.
And I just like that. Also, obviously, I will say too, like when you're married with someone and like with a good person, you you're such a help for each other. You're such a big support for each other, and that's something that's probably one of my favorite things. It's like I know I'm not alone. If I'm going through something hard, I can always like share it with you
Mm.
rather than like keep it in and like have to deal with by myself.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm not saying it's not possible to deal with stuff by yourself, but it's always nice to have a best friend that's right there. And if you have something to talk about, you can talk to them about.
Yeah. It's kind of the good. It's like the good, the bad, and the ugly you're experiencing with one person.
Yeah.
And I think that's really special, especially seeing my parents. Like, we've gone through, like, as a couple, we've gone through a lot. As a family, we've gone through a lot. And it's not like my mom is going to confide in me, right? Like, I don't think my as a therapist, I do not think parents should be confiding in their kids on anything at all. I don't think that's healthy. They need to be able, because you guys are just a different power dynamic. Anyway,
That's a different
a
podcast.
different podcast. I just, that's not that important right now. But My parents could confide with each other. Like I, like when my brother got diagnosed with autism, that was a long like journey until he was able to kind of like be more independent.
Mm-hmm.
But that was hard figuring out schools. School systems didn't even have like special needs programs like really built in when he was
Yeah.
younger, which is crazy. And there was a lot of tears and a lot of like, oof, a lot of marriages break up from that. My parents stuck through it, and they were able to like. That's another level of foundation that they're never going to be able to experience that with anyone else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then like financial struggles, like that was its own thing with my family,
Mm.
but they were able to experience that together and really be able to like be each other's best friends and champions and supporters through those times, and really
Mm.
build each other up during those times. And I think what I love about marriage, even the most, is during those really vulnerable times, you have somebody who's able just to really hold you in those, and um,
You carry a burden together.
you carry a burden together. And I know that it's there's something really, really valuable in that. Of I can go to my friends for it for sure, but there is something really different about going there with you. I've noticed that I've talked about that with my other married friends too. There's just something different. Like I can go to my friends about it and really be vulnerable and cry and all the
Yeah.
things. When I go to you for it, it just feels different. It's like I'm building something different with you, obviously. Um,
Because we also like, because we share the same life.
mm-hmm.
You know, we lead together our lives together. Like my life is obviously we also have things that we like to do on our own. You know, there's things that we like to do by ourselves, but like the big picture, we're doing it together,
Yeah.
and I think that's something that's priceless, and that's what also makes it, different than having a best friend,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't really build your life with your best friend. You
Yeah.
know, obviously I'm your best friend now, but I'm saying like when you're single and you say you have a best friend, or you're married, you would say you have a best friend outside of your marriage, which is fine. Um, but it's not the same level.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess all that to say that marriage is good.
Yeah, it's good.
Marriage
And
is worth it, and we never want to paint that picture that like marriage is so much hard work
yeah.
and so much, and it is, but in comparison with like the good stuff, like the hard stuff makes the good stuff worth it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and without the hard stuff, you don't have the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. You
Because
can't
the
have it. Yeah.
if you're willing to deal with the hard, but that's like, and that doesn't change whether you're single or married. If you're not willing to deal with the hard stuff, you don't get to experience the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
now you're doing it with someone else,
It's real.
and
That's real.
you're sharing a burden with another person when something hard happens, and then when something good happens, you're also sharing it with someone else, like I said earlier,
Mm.
and both ways, it just makes it better.
It's really good. It's really good. And I think too, when um kind of the reason why when I saw that reel, it brought me just like maybe grief in my heart was too, it's just like, dang, you guys are, it's like you are, they're painting a picture of, yeah, of like when it's hard, you move on.
Hmm.
And it's kind of just like marriage is so dispensable. I don't know. It's kind of just like easily replaceable. It's not a big deal. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, you can do it and it's not a big deal, and you can get a divorce and get married again. Like who cares? Like you know what I mean? Like it's something that's so sacred. I see it as very, very sacred. We both do, and to make it as like it's like a life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like yeah, whatever, kill them, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like that's very like as marriage is super sacred, and I don't want to ever put it in a picture. I think it frustrates me when people put it in a picture of like it happens or it doesn't, and you get a divorce and it's like not a big deal.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's like you're not like people's lives aren't actually affected by that. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
your heart isn't as affected by that, or even like there's a lot to it, and it is so beautiful and special and sacred.
Hmm.
And I think we need to continue putting it back on the sacred place of this is what we're entering into. This is something that's so beautiful and special
Yeah.
and needs to be protected.
Yeah.
And it's not something where it's just like
Yeah, and so many people are like overlooking marriage. It's like marriage is overrated. So because of that, either people actually get married because it's not that big of a deal. I'll just do it.
mm,
And it's fun. You get the party, you get the ring, you get all that, and it's romantic. But then you have the opposite side of like people don't get married
mm,
and they just stay with someone, boyfriend, girlfriend, for years because they don't see the value of marriage.
mm,
You know, so that's what you said. Marriage is sacred, and is beautiful, and it's you know the best proof of love. Um, yeah. So I guess that's what we want to say, is that marriage is sacred. Marriage should be regarded as sacred,
Yeah.
should be protected, and should be valued. Um, and it's not overrated.
Mm.
It is when you have the good like perspective, the good understanding of what marriage is, you understand how important it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
So divorce sucks. It always sucks. When my parents got divorced, it sucked, and it was terrible. And we were like so like sad. Like I
Mm.
mean, I remember when they announced it, we were like we couldn't believe it, and we were really really hurt, and it led my family to like go through really hard times.
Mm.
Um, and I'm not celebrating my parents' divorce. Like obviously, good things came out of it, but that's because God is good.
Mm.
Because God can turn something bad into something good, like He makes beauty from ashes, then that's great.
It's good.
But it's not because divorce is good that the good things came out of it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's the key right there. Like, yes, of course, God can turn anything into good, but
Yeah.
what it does to you and your families and all the things, it's like it's really hard.
Yeah.
And I understand it in certain situations when it's necessary. Like, good if there's abuse and all that, and always going to emphasize that. And I think if you know us by now, you know that that's like our heart. And everybody knows us. This might be your first time meeting us, so I always feel like I'll have to give that disclaimer. But yeah, no, that's really good. And that's because it was just on my heart, and I really wanted it to kind of like it's kind of like a little like if you guys were in if you were come and having like coffee on a Tuesday morning, this is what we would talk about. I don't know, you know what I mean? I just feel like it was
Okay.
like a really it's like I just wanted to share something that was on my heart,
Yeah.
and ideally if you were in here you would talk back, but you can't. You can though in the comments, and you can on a review or in our DMs because I do
Yeah.
want to hear what you guys' thoughts are on this topic. But yeah, um, that's all we got.
So we got. Um, I guess we can talk about. It's still time to sign up for group coaching.
Yes.
We're starting on January 27th, so it's still time.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, as you know, spots are limited and they're filling up. And
We'll let you know if for some reason if it is full. We'll let you know in the beginning. Like just kidding, it's full.
yeah, and if like it's full, you can also always like if you don't see anything for it on like our Instagram or whatever, or on the link or whatever, you can always like DM us and maybe we can see if something is possible.
Just DM us and see. Obviously, for sure. And obviously, the link is if it says full, just DM us. But otherwise, the
Or
link will be
email
there
us,
for sure.
because both like the link and the email will be in the description.
Perfect. Yeah. But if you value marriage too, and if this is something that you vision for your life, and you're kind
Yeah.
of almost there, and kind of like I feel a lot of anxiety, but I know I want to get married. This is a really good program for you. Even if you're single and you know you want to get married, but you know you have anxiety,
Yeah.
this is a good program for you.
Yeah.
A really good mentorship for you, and we'll put all the links and descriptions of that below. But it's almost coming, and I'm really really excited about it.
That'd be fun.
It's gonna be really fun. But if you like this episode, don't forget to rate, subscribe, review,
Share,
and share it.
like, comment,
Mhm.
subscribe. You said that already, but there's subscription on podcasts and subscription on YouTube. So
Yes.
yeah. Thank you for watching.
Mhm.
Thank you for listening.
And we'll talk
That's
to y'all
it.
next week. Love y'all. Bye.
Bye.